and welcome to Witchysips, where we talk about witchy things and our drinks are witchy sips. So today's drink is a new cup of coffee because I just spilled mine on the rug, which is really sad. So it's just regular coffee with ginger and cinnamon and honey.
Sweet.
And today we have a special guest, Art. Art, what's in your witchy sip today?
Today I kind of just got a Dunkin' classic medium caramel iced coffee. And yeah, I kind of like just going for classic sometimes.
Do you like really sweet drinks?
I do. Yeah, I think it's actually kind of like how I was brought up too. Because our grandpa would give us like coffee and stuff, and he was like, "Mijo, do you want a cafecito?" And like, he would put like sugar and milk and stuff, and that's how he would take it, and
right.
He would share it with us, and that's how we kind of did it.
Oh, how nice. I remember drinking coffee at a very young age too.
Yeah.
And the old ladies would ask my mom, isn't that going to keep him up at night? Or isn't that bad for him? When it's done his growth, which probably it did because I'm 5'8", so it's not, I'm not really tall. But yeah, I love sweet drinks as well. So, today we're going to talk about deities and open and closed practices and cultural appropriation versus appreciation and how it relates to witchcraft. And so, fellow witchy friend, Art, and like I said, this is our first conversation, so that's exciting. It's exciting for me as it is for our listeners. Yeah. And so, tell us about your witchy self. What do you do? What do you practice?
I guess like I've always been drawn to like magic and witchcraft and everything ever since I was like a kid. Even though like I grew up, again, I know it's a running theme, like in a very religious household.
Right. Yes, we all did, right?
And yeah, and you know, like it was very like, you know, anything except Christianity is witchcraft and is of the devil. But you know, like that didn't stop my little self from like appreciating like the witches in all the movies and in shows and stuff. Even as a kid, like I would go to my backyard or whatever, and I would collect a bunch of like flowers and plants and stuff, and I would like make potions and stuff. And it's funny because like the kids in my neighborhood saw me doing it, and like they were like, you're making potions or whatever. But then like that same day after they made fun of me, like a couple of them came back and gave me plants. He's like, oh, here for your potions. So that was funny. And you know, it's always been a lifelong interest, and I think I kind of like started getting a little more into it, like more like as a practice in maybe like 2010 and stuff, and it's just been snowballing. It's like peaks and valleys, like, you know, like sometimes I do a lot, I really get into it, and then sometimes it's like static and I don't do anything. But yeah, no, it's always been a constant basically in my life. It's not really been a thing that's gone away. So.
Nice. Mm-hmm. And what do you practice specifically? Are there any major points of interest that you work on, that you work with, that you do?
I guess like in ways, I mean, like, you know, there's like the people believe also like in white, black, and gray magic, right? I guess if I had to put myself in a spectrum, it'd probably be on the white magic-y side, because mine's more about like I guess protection and just healing and calming, and also like manifestation, of course, like just trying to bring the things that I want and stuff, and kind of just repel the things that wish to do me harm, which has happened. But yeah,
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Manifestation is a really, really good one, and I think it's how a lot of us get started
mm-hmm.
with witchcraft or with magic.
And also, I guess I forgot to mention that I also like, I do tend to work with like spirits, entities, you know, deities, and that's not to say like you know, like with a spirit board or a Ouija board or anything. It's just kind of like calling out to that God, that deity, that spirit, that ancestor. And I definitely can say like I've felt heard, I've felt helped by them. So
right.
Yeah.
Speaking of deities, do you know if any are tied to any specific religions or close practices, or is it just the spirits or deities or entities or ancestors just in general that you feel called to do to work with? And also, how do you go about working with them, do you feel called to do so? Is there a specific ritual that you go about doing or working with them?
With them, yeah, I guess I have felt connected to them for a long time, ever since I was a kid as well, because when I was a kid, I had a huge interest in mythology. I was always in the library in middle school, like looking up like mythology and world religions and stuff. And I guess the first one that kind of really stuck out was Egyptian mythology, and specifically the god Thoth. She goes by Jehudi and a lot of other names, but I call him Thoth. And he's like the one of wisdom and of like scribes and everything of the written word. And I've always loved to write. I've always like anytime I was like in school, like I would really stuck with him, especially in college. And he just really helped me, and his spirit, I guess, like really helped me with just like school and everything. And yeah, I mean, you could say that he's tied into Egyptian mythology, aka also Kemetic religion. But what's interesting about, of course, Egyptian mythology or the Egyptian pantheon is that that it's somewhat of a dead religion, really. But there's definitely practitioners out there that work with Egyptian deities, and more so, and some others that have like more of a mystic following of it, like the Rosicrucians and like the cult, Thelema and stuff. Like they all have like ties sometimes into Egyptian mythology.
How interesting. When I was younger in high school, I was into mythology as well, but more so, I think Greek mythology, just because that's what everybody knows and studies, I guess, in high school, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of caught my attention, because also I wasn't allowed to venture out into mythology as well because of the religious background. So I was just like, I mean, I guess I'll do some research on my own. But that was about it. I never actually got into other mythologies around the world.
Yes, like definitely Greek Roman mythology was a big one too. That's like, it's there like number 2, and like also I'm into like Norse mythology, Greek mythology, and like Catholic saints. Like I really like appreciate and resonate a lot with those. So even though as far as I know, I'm not Egyptian, I'm not Greek, I'm not Catholic lineage somewhat, yeah, right? But yeah.
Have you ever, I know a lot of Hispanic people work with La Santa Muerte. Do you work with La Santa Muerte at all?
I guess not La Santa Muerte specifically, but I guess death as a concept, as a beginning and ending, but not Santa Muerte specifically. I think because I wasn't familiar with her, and she felt almost like kind of like I was like, I'm not worthy. Like this is like a sacred thing that I don't know too much about, so I have to kind of like lay off.
Right. I read a couple of books on Santa Muerte, and and there was like a whole ritual to like ask for permission to work with La Santa Muerte.
Yeah.
But also those books that I read, the magic behind Santa Muerte, what you do with it is very heavy, almost destructive to a point. So I haven't really like gone into that so much, but it's very interesting, and it's as a concept, like you said, and even going further into like tarot with the death card, that's also a really I don't want to say lovely because it's not, well, but kind of it's about letting go of old things, starting new chapters, rebirth, that kind of thing.
Definitely.
I really love that. So let me ask you, where do you think the line is regarding working with specific deities that might be tied to, like you said, Egyptian mythology? Egyptian deities is more like a dead religion, but there are still practitioners out there who are very, like, I guess you could say hardcore. But where do you think the line is, and where does it become vague in working with deities as opposed to deities as concepts? or instead of deities as static figures that more so evolve as time goes on?
Yeah, that's definitely been like a question that's always been in the back of my mind, especially nowadays, I guess, when everyone's reclaiming a lot of their old ways, a lot of their heritage and stuff, and you know, they sometimes do draw the line and are like, they're like, this is what it is, you can't be shaping it to how you want. But I think, I don't know, I just always resonated with certain deities, and like Pan, Dionysus, Thoth, Freyr, Death, the Virgin Mary. Those are like the ones that always resonated with, and definitely ones I reach out to. I think like it's such a personal thing, and I think the line, it's not very clear, but as long as you're not doing it maybe like in an insulting way or an outward way, or like claiming that you're, you know, because there's definitely a lot of those people out there on like social media that claim to be, you know, in direct connection with this deity, and like they're basically their pope, right? So and I think that can be insulting, especially to other cultures and their of origin, because you don't know that for a fact, you know, like
right.
You can feel that, but it's like it comes off disingenuous, it comes off a little shaky. See, like this was like a spicy topic, and I was like,
It's a good one.
yeah, no, it is.
Well, and because like there are closed practice groups that work with their specific deities, like you said, like Santeria has Orishas.
Yeah.
Voodoo has Loas, and there are even other schools of mysticism, like Kabbalah, that's particular to Jewish religion, to Jewish people, Jewish faith. But even that, it has variances specific to what tradition it is, or what religious adaptation it is, if it's an older one, if it's a newer one, that kind of thing. And so, like even I don't know, maybe you've seen people have a red string around their wrist, and that's very from Kabbalah, but now it's very commonly used. So I don't know if that comes off as offensive or not. You know, it's like vague.
It's like such a blurry line, I guess. And it's not always easy to know like what's the right answer. I guess I felt comfortable working with my deities because I studied them a lot. Like I said, I was always into Egyptology when I was a kid, and I studied, you know, like I even gave like a class presentation on all the gods of Egypt that I knew at the time in middle school. And yeah, like I guess like the closer you are in studying them and respecting them, the more okay it is that you work with them, you know.
Right.
And with me, like my practice is solitary. I don't really ever put it out there too much, what I do and how I do it, with what I do it. And this is kind of like the first time I kind of put it out there too. But yeah, like it's always just been like such a personal thing, and you know, and of course it's like a hugely personal thing to everyone that practices. So I think as long as you do it with like a lot of respect for the origin, the geographic origin and its people, I think you're closer for it to be okay, you know?
I agree. One article that I read talked about how it can become cultural appropriation if you are directly profiting from it and you are not of that culture, of that religion, of that closed group. Like you said, people that might come out on social media that say they have a direct line with a specific deity or a specific spirit or entity. But again, going back to the concepts, because if you think about how different cultures have different gods, but most of them have gods or deities that are specific to a concept, like the god of death, the concept of death.
The concept of death.
I know Voodoo has Aloha Baron Samedi.
Somebody.
The Aztecs had Mi.
Go for it.
It's a word.
Let me see. Let me help you.
Mictlantecutli.
I think that's it.
I'm gonna say yes, Mictlantecutli, the Aztec god of death.
Yeah.
Right, and then also the Orishas, there's Oya, the Orisha of death.
Mhm.
And so I think, like you said, having these concepts
Mhm.
and that being more of a gateway to work with those concepts in your practice.
I think also I've also like thought of working with deities as not really just working with them as like this is all they are, like say with Thoth. I believe if I connect with Thoth, god of knowledge, I'm also connecting with Athena. I'm also connecting with like a universal concept of like wisdom, and that's kind of like the way through. Like with say the Virgin Mary, like the concept of like pureness and motherhood and mercy. I feel like when I pray to her, like I'm tapping into like universal concept of mercy and humanity and grace and all these things, and peace. So that's, I guess that's ultimately how I think of them too. It's just like like they're like the patron of that idea, of that concept too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I had read a while ago as well was about how some people are very prescriptivist, that it's just one way, this is the only way, and that's how you should respect it.
Oh yeah, the purists. Yeah.
Purists, yes. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, because witchcraft is what inherently without rules, so as to avoid rights and wrongs, and also to avoid disenfranchising people or its members, right? As opposed to like organized religion. So what do you think about that?
I've never really been into like a lot of structure. Like I was raised Christian, like Baptist Christian, and it was a lot of structure, and I've tended to shy away from structured stuff, like even like within witchcraft, and I've never really liked like a purist take on things. Obviously, I mean, like I work with deities of many pantheons of like Norse, Egyptian, so on, and yeah. What was the question again?
How do you feel about about purist ideologies, and how there are only certain ways? Because again, there are people out there, like you said, social media or other podcasts that say, no, this is the only way. Like a specific one that I can think of off the top of my head that talks about brujeria as only of this specific group of people, but which also anybody can practice it. The word brujeria in Spanish literally means witchcraft or energy work or energy manipulation, right? And so, people can become very gatekeepy, and so that's kind of where I get kind of stuck on the idea that it should be for everybody. It's inclusive because everybody's born into the earth that can tap into the energies of the earth, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Because there can be a lot of, and you can find them anywhere, on podcasts, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Tumblr, that just kind of like shame people for working with a deity a certain way. It's like, that's not how it works.
Right.
You're doing it wrong. And I have to disagree, because that's that person's own experience, and especially, like I said, if they're doing it like from a place of respect and like a true like connection with them, like I couldn't tell them that they're doing it wrong, unless like they're making like a complete mockery of it. Then that's not cool. But I agree, like that it's witchcraft should be inclusive, and it is, and the more like we can share it, I don't know, the more like inclusive it can be. I don't know.
No, yeah, for sure.
I don't know how to say that.
you were how you said that how unless they're making a complete mockery of it. Like I don't know if you remember last year there were some people on TikTok they were cursing the moon or hexing the moon. I was like no. I mean that part I can be like, well, I mean, can you really?
Can you really? Yeah.
Are you sure? But yeah, for sure. And one of the podcasts that I listened to talked about how if you're doing spell work, you should follow the set ingredients, the set procedures and ritual, otherwise it won't work. Which, yeah, I mean, you can, but there are also people, because witchcraft and magic is of people who are disenfranchised or of spiritual practices. So they use what's at hand, right?
Yeah.
So who's to say I can't use this rock instead of this rock, or this stick instead of this other stick?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've also seen that too. And people are like really like gatekeeping about their spells too, because of course, like, you know, people make their own spells and stuff, and then they share them, and then people take them and then replace, like you said, one thing for another, and they get offended that, first of all, that they used it kind of without their permission, even though they shared it,
right.
and then like adapted it to their own use. Like, it's just, I don't know, like I think people have to like be of the spirit that like I want you to have this and for you to make it your own, because because that's where I come from with it, you know. Right. And I definitely respect everyone's practice, or whatever that may be, you know.
In terms of witchcraft being eclectic, really, unless you subscribe to a specific group, you take and borrow from anything, and what's to say whatever spell you used might be the exact same thing that I'm looking for. I could take it and kind of modify it and use it for my own purposes, which is kind of the same thing, but make it into my own. Like you said.
And I think we can definitely do all that, but also like I guess what we were saying earlier about like close practices, since we know that there's definitely groups like Native American groups, you know, voodoo, hoodoo, santeria, that are very vocally like, please respect our practices, these are our practices. And that is something I respect completely, and I don't try to infringe upon it at all, you know.
Right.
Like, I've never experienced voodoo, and like, I've never had a tie to it. I've never known anyone that practiced it. I've never practiced it in myself, so I wouldn't feel good like going into that practice and cherry picking what I want, because I know of that group is very much a close practice.
Right. I remember I ran into I was at Barnes & Noble one day, I want to say a couple years ago, and I was looking at books on tarot, and then a young woman came up to me and she's like, oh, have you read that, or do you practice, or I don't know what she said. She came up to me though, and I was like really like, oh, cool. But she had told me that she was studying as an initiate of voodoo, and as such they have to go about looking for a priest who will initiate them, and they have to go through all these rituals and all this entire process. And so that's, like you said, if you're not directly tied to it, if you don't know anything about it, then I wouldn't feel comfortable either doing something like that. Although I would love to, I've always wanted to go to New Orleans just to, I don't know, just to be in there, just to feel it, you know? But I mean, I wouldn't go and practice something that I don't know nothing about.
Yeah.
That I don't know anything about, sorry.
And I think with that too, like if you did go to New Orleans, because there are a lot of course, that community is definitely has like a voodoo community, and I think and there's definitely those people that want you to come in and they'd like to share with you, and I think that'd be a good way to kind of experience it on their terms, on very safe ground, and where you're both experiencing it from like the right position, you know.
Right. And speaking specifically about making things your own, like me, I read tarot, but I know that I read it a specific way. Of somebody in Oregon who she reads tarot, but she also throws in like bone throwing as well, and kind of incorporates that. So it just kind of works in different ways, right?
Yeah.
I know also, like, I don't know if you watched recently on Netflix, I don't know if you watch these kind of shows, but there's this really cute animated show called Maya and the Three. It's adorable, I love it. But it's about this little girl who is in ancient Mayan, Aztec, Inca times, and they just kind of blended everything together. And I know how they had their own pantheons, and most of them were masculine. But in this show, they make it so that there are females, males, ones who look without gender. So that's actually really cool, and I think that's a way that cultures and practices evolve after time.
Yeah, and that, I'm glad you said that too, because I've definitely been of the thought that like witchcraft and traditions should evolve as well. You know, I think it doesn't serve to kind of keep them and freeze them a certain way. I think, you know, the more new traditions that we develop, and the better, and the more rich that it'll be. You know.
Right, I agree. Back to tarot. I use the Rider-Waite-Smith deck.
Yeah, me too.
And so, but a lot of people feel that it's very, it's outdated and kind of very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not heteronormative, but kind of patriarchal. And very not POC friendly. And so there are different decks that you can choose from and make your own. And I know there's one that looks very much like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but it has people of color, it has males and females, it has genderless individuals. It's actually kind of great. So yeah, going to that idea that you can kind of change and practices evolve.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, I've seen those tarot cards too, and they're out there. You can find them. A lot of queer artists make their own. A lot of BIPOC people make their own tarot decks, and they're like really beautiful. And I think that's awesome. And I definitely have my eyes on a few tarot decks.
There's one that I want to get also, just because I want it. It has drag queens on it. I know one has Trixie Mattel on it, and I'm here for it. And so, yeah, I mean, there are so many, right? And it's just one of those things that I just want to have it just to have it.
Have you seen the one with the Golden Girls?
Yes.
Tarot, yeah, I want that one too.
Yeah. I think Dion sent that to me. He was like, you should get this one. I'm like, okay. So yeah, I definitely want that.
Yeah,
maybe for Christmas. Maybe he'll get it for me for Christmas. I don't know. I know, huh? Hey, are you listening?
Hey, listening.
But yeah, I mean, all the things. And right, it should evolve and it should become your own, whatever you choose to do with it.
Yeah. Because that helps it grow too.
Yeah, I agree.
The more inviting it is, the better it is for everyone.
I agree. And I think especially now because, like you said earlier, everybody's kind of reclaiming it and making it their own. And I think the pandemic did that to a lot of people. It just kind of like gave everybody a chance to just look inwards and be like, okay, well, how can I calm myself down?
Yeah, it's and it is true actually, because I was listening to a podcast too, and they talked about that. I think Vice also covered it, how a lot of people are turning during the pandemic, they turned to like their rituals and stuff, I guess, of their ancestral rituals, because we were having these conversations about, you know, heritage. Like a lot of Black people were reclaiming like Black traditions, like ancestral traditions, and so were like a lot of like Native American ancestral people. They were looking into it and everything, and yeah, I think that's great that people kind of like look back and kind of reclaim everything, because I mean, obviously the world was like Christianized like against its own will, so it's good that I think we're having that this moment.
Right, and because you said it was Christianized, right? And so that's like something that it feels like it can happen with witchcraft. People just taking it and making it purist, right?
And like hierarchical, and
yes,
which is
kind of whitewashed even at some points.
Yeah, and
just for aesthetic
and very
reasons.
Commercialized, because I've seen it very commercialized here and there too, which makes me cringe.
I think like last year Sephora came out with a kit that had like sage, like, which brings me to another point, like sourcing your witchy tools. And if you must get something that is specific to a group, why not also just pay it forward and buy locally, right?
Yeah, because like with sage, that's like a hot topic, where you source it from. Because I mean, I've seen it kind of in a bag at the mall. And some people feel a little cringy about that. But you know, there's like local places that you can get it, and like especially in New Mexico, since we're right next to New Mexico, there's a lot of tribal groups there that will happily sell it to you, you know, and that you're getting like the real thing. So
yeah, I have a sage and cedar bundle that I got down the street from a local shop, and then I get my Palo Santo or my incense in Ruidoso, New Mexico, because like you said, we're right there. So no, yeah, for sure.
And yeah, also in like your local botanical shops, like I think those are good places to go to. You know what, I've only ever been to one little botanica here in El Paso, where I go usually to, like I said, where I get my my things is down the street at a place called Dreadful Things. I love going there. But as far as botanicas go, I've only ever been to one that's it's like across the street from Taco something. Is it Cool Arrows?
Yes.
Cool Arrows. Yeah, Cool Arrows has like 3 locations here.
Oh, really?
And definitely you can go there. I mean, here's shout out to all the botanical places. You can definitely go to Cool Arrows. I get a lot of my stuff there, like my candles and stuff. And I've gotten a wand there before. And you can also get it at Tooth and Veil. They have like a little apothecary right there, and everything they make a lot of their stuff in house.
Oh, nice.
Too. And she's the owner. She's a practicing witch as well. And also in Las Cruces, you have to go to Funky Karma. Funky Karma. I've never seen. I guess since we're like in such a little community, like I've never seen like such a big magical store. Oh, really? Yeah, it has like 4 or 6 rooms full of stuff. Oh, wow. Yeah, it has like one for books, one for, you know, teas and candles and teas and teapots and stuff, and like crystals, and you have to go to Las Cruces Funky Karma. There's
a place in Las Cruces also. It's a coffee shop, but it's a little store as well, and it has a bunch of crystals. It has incense. It has a bunch of stuff. I'm not sure what it's called. Spirit Winds, maybe, or Sacred Grounds, or is that in Ruidoso? I forget. It's a really cute place too, though. Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about. Then the name I don't have it right now, but yeah, I've seen that place. I think my friend even works there. So. And Tooth and Veil, I've been there once, and I got a bag of lavender. That's the lavender that I use for my tea sometimes. Yeah, I love that place. Yeah. Really cute. But yeah, support local. Support local for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, you know what? Even if there's not a clear answer to closed practices and witchcraft as an eclectic practice that borrows and takes from other practices. Even if there's not a clear answer as to what you can do or what you shouldn't do or what you should do or whatever, at least it's being discussed.
Yeah, and definitely like have the conversations and listen to other practitioners, listen to the communities of origin, I guess, and yeah, just try and be a good person about it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, because what else do we have, right?
Right? Be kind.
Be kind, for sure. But yeah, thank you for joining us.
Mhm.
I usually like to end with something witchy. Do you have anything that you'd like to share? Be it movies, art, music, anything witchy that you would like people to know about?
I guess, like I said, I do like a lot of protection and kind of energy clearing, and it's just kind of calming. And I guess this goes into like a little gift I have. So I got you some Palo Santo.
Oh my goodness, how exciting!
Yeah,
I love Palo Santo.
And then also me too. That's one of my favorite things. And also 2 oils too. And 2 oils I got are like vanilla and white rose.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so I guess one thing I like to do is I like to put it on an oil burner and just kind of you know how like it wisps up and everything, like the little smoke. What I like to do is hold my hands over it and kind of manifest like protection and calming, and I just kind of put it on every wall and the doors and the windows, and I just kind of take it, and I even kind of put it around my clothes to kind of just for it to absorb that kind of like calming energy, and just to kind of, I don't know, spread the good vibes.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for that. I really appreciate this, for sure. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
You're very welcome.
And I love rosy scents. And actually, on the off season, because right now we're in holiday season, so I get all the holiday drinks at Starbucks.
Yeah.
But during the off season, I get vanilla drinks.
Me
So,
too. I like vanilla.
but thank you so much. I really appreciate
Yes,
this.
and those are 2 of my favorite scents too.
And thank you for joining us for Witchy Sips.
Mhm.
And we would love to have you back at some point.
I would love to.
I know you talked about astrology when we were chatting about episode topics. You talked about that you like to
Oh, yeah.
do astrology things.
Heavy
So
into astrology.
we can do an episode on astrology, because I just know my big 3, and that's
And your
it.
big 3?
But
Yeah.
and I think my Mars must be in some really ineffective position because I cannot get shit done. But
It's okay. Like everything's in retrograde right now, isn't it? Just kidding.
Right,
And we just came out of Mercury.
yeah, and so but yeah, we would love to have you back to talk about astrology and other things too. So
I'd love to be back. Yes. Thank you for having me.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Art.
so much.
And I think that's it.
Thank you.
That's a wrap.